And what do you think about telesales versus face-to-face? Is there an opinion? Do you think one's better than the other? Do you think they're both right depending on the individual?
You know what? I mean, for so long, I was just set on field sales.
Yep.
COVID came. Of course, that kind of changed things a little bit. Everybody had to get into telesales for a while. My whole state was shut down.
Hey, welcome back to the CA Power Players Podcast. I'm your host, Cody Askins. Today I got a special guest who has been around the industry a lot for a long time and knows a ton about helping agents succeed. He's seen a ton of agents fail. He's seen a ton of agents succeed, and he knows the ins and outs of how to help you do that from Unity Life Group up near Chicago, Illinois. Welcome to the channel on the podcast, Adam Brsan.
Hey, thanks a lot for having me, Cody.
Dude, appreciate you being here, man. We had a blast in Springfield hanging out together recently and excited to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, it was great. I thought that it was a great event. I mean, social media is just so important these days, just kind of learning the ins and outs of,
yes.
Well, that one was about YouTube. So just trying to kind of build a bit of a bigger presence on YouTube.
Yep.
I've had a channel for about maybe 3 or 4 years.
Cool.
I think my biggest problem is just consistency. Haven't been consistent with it, and I still haven't been. I mean, the beginning of the year I was posting quite a bit and kind of slowed down recently, but just got a lot going on. So once things settle down, I think it'll be a little bit easier to just kind of be a little bit more consistent with, and I think that'll make a big difference.
Yeah. What's the name of your channel?
Just my name, Adam Brsan.
I love it. And that's Brsan.
That's it.
Cool, buddy. Well, and for those listening, the event that Adam was referring to was the YouTube and social media workshop that David Dufort and I did together here in Springfield, Missouri. We had some cool cats like Adam and others that hung out for a few days, had dinner and socialized and talked video and YouTube and all the stuff, Adam, for those that don't know your story, how did you end up where you are today?
Well, I mean, I just celebrated 20 years of getting licensed back in the middle of February. So, dude. Yeah. So, I mean, I've been in the business quite a long time. I got licensed when I was 21 years old. So that'll tell you how old I am now.
Yes, right.
My dad, I actually grew up in the business. My dad is in the business. I just kind of saw the lifestyle growing up, and I mean, my mom didn't have to work. She stayed home. She took care of us, and he was just out hustling, working hard every day to support us. And that was kind of like what I always wanted, just to be able to do that for my family. Yeah. And so, after high school, I worked for a law firm for a couple years. Originally, I wanted to get into law, and I was in junior college at the time, and honestly, I just kind of got tired of school. Yes. I was ready to get to work. And because I knew my dad had been pretty successful in the business, he sold a pretty good block of Medicare business back then. And originally that's kind of what I was getting into, was the Medicare and health insurance, things like that. And then I would say about maybe a year into the business, my dad was really just trying to help me when it came to leads. Figuring out a way to get more leads in my hands. That's the name of the game, really. You got to have that steady flow of leads on a regular basis. I was 21, 22 years old at the time. I didn't have a ton of money for leads. So he found a company, a final expense company that was willing to finance the leads, where all I had to worry about was going out to work. As long as I went out to work, I would make sales. I'd make money, my leads would be paid for, and rinse and repeat and do it again. So, that company I was with for about 11 and a half years, learned a lot there. I've always kind of just been about the simplicity, primarily focused one product, one company. That was, again, the first company I was with, and then the next company I was with after that. Now, when I was with that first company for 11 and a half years, I'd say maybe about 8 or 9 years into it, I was on a company convention. And again, that's like incentive trips. You got to write enough business to make the trip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm surrounded around just a whole bunch of successful people. And I was doing pretty well because I made the trip. But I met a guy there that was making like $100,000 a month. And I'm like, man, if that guy's doing that, like, why can't I? I went up to the guy, I introduced myself, and my goal was to learn as much as I could from him. I drove out to, he lived in Ohio. I drove out to Ohio. He helped me out a little bit, kind of mentored me from there. And I really started to kind of see the possibilities of really what could be in this business. It was almost like I was blinded from it for a long time, where all I really knew was just going out and writing business. I really didn't know much about the growth potential in that. And once I saw that, I mean, it was just like fireworks going off. Like, wow, like same thing. Like I said, if he could do it, why couldn't I?
Yes.
So from there, I moved on to another company that was willing to kind of help me do the same thing, build and grow. They were going to pay me a bit of a salary to do so. And things went pretty well. I was actually the fastest growing manager there when I started. And from there, again, I was there 7.5 years. I just left this past November. I was just kind of ready to kind of just get out and do my own thing. Yes. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm ready to build and grow. And, you know, I see some of these big organizations out there, the type of premium that they're doing. And same thing. I mean, I have that mindset of, well, if someone else built an organization like that and they're putting up that kind of premium, yeah, I know it's a lot of hard work, but I get out of bed every morning just like they do.
That's right.
So if I want to make something big happen in my mind, I can do it. I just got to put the time in and surround myself around the right people that kind of have that same mindset.
True.
And things will just kind of take off from there. So
yeah,
you know, last few months been pretty busy. I walked away from quite a bit of premium, which meant that I kind of had to start over a little bit. So I've been out hitting it hard, going out and writing as much business as I can. And I'm in the process now of really starting to develop really both sides with telesales and also with field sales, kind of putting some good things together. Because I know some agents, they're really not into going out in the field, and other agents are not into selling over the phone. So, I mean, I'd rather kind of put both together and really, you know, make something big happen, transition into maybe Medicare after that, and add some other things.
Yep. And what do you think about telesales versus face-to-face? Is there an opinion? Do you think one's better than the other? Do you think they're both right, depending on the individual?
You know what? I mean, for so long, I was just set on field sales.
Yep.
COVID came. Of course, that kind of changed things a little bit. Everybody had to get into telesales for a while. My whole state was shut down.
Especially in Illinois. In Illinois.
Yeah. It was tough. And honestly, I think it maybe affected a lot of people mentally, where people that were so used to going out in the field, it's like they were just shut in. And I know a lot of people now who have had trouble getting back out in the field.
Yep.
I didn't have that problem. I love being out in the field, but I did build at my prior company. I did build a virtual call center where I had about maybe 10 to 12 agents that were consistently taking phone calls, live transfers, things like that. It went well for a while. I think my biggest problem was finding those agents that were willing to commit to it on a regular basis. Yes. We had to pay for those calls regardless of if we had people that were available to take the calls or not. So kind of got to the point where, well, I mean, unfortunately, we just did not have enough people to commit to it. Maybe we should have tested it a little bit longer before we kind of opened it up to a lot of people. But I did learn a lot about telesales then. Yep. And I do see the value in it. One thing, I mean, heck, I mean, all the driving I've been doing lately, I mean, I start to think a little bit about that. Like, all this time that I'm spending driving from one house to the next, I could be making that many more contacts and more people to talk to and more opportunities to make sales, as long as I have enough leads to do so. Yep. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I mean, I've been hitting it hard in the field the last 2 months, and now I'm working on building up a telesales platform, and I'm going to start testing it probably next week. Good. And then we're just going to kind of go from there, see how it works. But I've seen, again, I mean, social media, boy, I mean, we sure learn a lot just through that. I mean, I've seen so many people that have been writing a lot of business just over the phone lately. Yeah. Same mindset. If they can do it, I don't think they're any better than me. So no, it's true. I mean, I think I can do it too.
It's crazy. Yeah. You know what? That reminds me of something. You said that a couple of times. And you mentioned, like, there's a lot of agents where, COVID hurt their confidence, or they're struggling to transition, or a lot of agents just fell in general. You've mentioned a couple times that, like, hey, if somebody else is doing it, I believe I can do it too. Where does that belief and confidence in you come from?
Honestly, I just think it's mindset. I think everybody has the same opportunities, really. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of what we want to do with it. I don't care where we came from, how we how we grew up. I mean, there's ways to overcome pretty much anything, in my opinion, if you put your mind to it. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I walked away from a lot. I mean, my prior company, they didn't want me to take any agents with me. So it's like, I'm starting over. I could have remained stagnant. I could have remained comfortable and, lived a pretty good lifestyle, made a pretty good income. But I just see so much more opportunity out there now with really what could be. Wow. Like I said, just from all these other organizations, the type of premium that they're putting up. And yeah, I kind of have that mindset. If they can do it, there's no reason why I can't. You see these people that are selling their agencies even for, 10, 12, 15 times what their annual profitability is. It's just amazing the kind of money you can make.
It's insane. So it's big, man. It's wild. You also mentioned too earlier that you had a mentor that you met on a trip. You asked some questions. You flew out in Iowa or Ohio and actually met with him. Yeah. And learned from him. What would you say was the biggest thing that you learned from that person who was making 6 figures a month?
Honestly, I would say just replication is really the most important thing. If you have a good system and you know what you're doing and you've been successful out in the field, then let's put together a program of what we've done that has made us successful and then teach it to others. And that's really the ultimate goal. I mean, when I'm building an agency, I want to train and build up another one of me, basically. I've done well at it. I want the next person. That's really the ultimate goal. Because then when they start recruiting and building, you can feel comfortable to know that they're training people the same way that, that I taught them, basically. Yeah. So,
yeah. You also mentioned at one point, like, how vital and important leads are. And there are so many agents. I mean, that's the only reason they fail is like they don't get in front of people. But yeah, that's such a massive question that we get that I wanted to address for our audience. Yeah. What advice would you give about leads and getting in front of people for those that still struggle with that piece?
Well, I mean, you can't be afraid to spend money. You got to be willing to bet on yourself, and you got to be consistent. You got to have that steady flow of leads on a regular basis. You can't place, especially like direct mail leads. If you're out in the field, I mean, you can't place one lead order and it takes 4 to 5 weeks for those leads to come in. And then you wait for them to come in before you place your next order. I mean, you got to be consistent. You got to set up for week, basically if I'm ordering for direct mail, well, the first week I'm actually planning for like week 5. And the second week I'm planning for week 6. So in the meantime, I'm going to need some other type of leads to work while I'm waiting for those direct mail to come in. But you have to be consistent. I think that's probably the most important part. Consistency, not being afraid to spend money, and being good at managing your money. Yep. You got to make sure if you're going out and making sales, that's great. But if you are not good at managing your money, well, how are you going to be able to continue and place more lead orders to remain in the business?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've trained some guys that ended up doing really well in the business that were in and out of the business just because they sucked at managing their money.
Mm.
And, there's really nothing you can do about it. I mean, that's probably, I think, probably the most critical part of this whole thing. You got to remember that this is a business and there's some expense involved, and you just got to be good at, like I said, set that money aside for future lead orders.
That's right. Yeah, that's 100% right. I love that, man. Spend money, bet on yourself, stay consistent. You also mentioned earlier too, at one point, about like having one product, one company. Obviously you probably write with a few, but there's a lot of agents that can get overwhelmed with the amount of different options and products and carriers. And I do think there's a point where it's just too many to juggle. What's your opinion on that for an agent that thinks they maybe need them all?
Yeah, well, I actually did a training last week
nice.
on a topic that could kind of relate, and that's selling value over price. And I think that if you have a good product and you're working with a good company, I always say company. I know I guess the industry term is carrier. To me, carrier, it's like you're just throwing a bunch of different applications in a briefcase and, just figuring out which one you want to use. I look at them as companies. I think most people, even if they're brokers, they usually have like their go-to company that they want to represent. And maybe if the prospect doesn't qualify with that company, well, then they can maybe shift to other options. But no, I think that your clients are buying from you, and if they like you and they trust you, price doesn't really matter. And there's these calculators out there, and I think so many people they focus way too much on just lowest price out there. And to me, there's just so much more to it. People say, well, you got to look out for the best interest of your client. Well, just because something is the cheapest doesn't mean it's the best. And I want to sell quality. And that's where, one of the companies, the primary company that I'm representing now, they have a plan that there's a lot more to it than just the insurance side of it. I mean, they help with a lot of the different planning parts that are involved with having to pay for a funeral. They even help people where they can put a will together ahead of time. They can set up like a power of attorney. There's other living benefits. So to me, I mean, I'm selling that value to the client,
right?
Not just the price. And that maybe that's because I came from a company, my first company, my first final expense company, where their rates were higher than almost every other company out there. And but there was that value proposition there.
Yes.
And I mean, my persistency hung around 90%.
Wow. That's awesome.
So you can't worry about your business getting replaced. To me, it's building that relationship with your client. And if you're good at it and your clients like you and they trust you, like I said, price doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, dude, this has been amazing, man. If they want to reach out and get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Well, they could either, I would say probably the best way just be go to my website, unitylifegroup.com.
Perfect.
And you can fill out an inquiry under join our team.
Sure.
And I'd be more than happy to set up a call with you. That would really be the best way. My direct line, 815-212-9980. Give me a call. Like I said, I'm right now, I'm pretty much starting over. So, I mean, I'm definitely looking to build and grow. And I kind of look at it as, the best time to get in on something is when it's just kind of getting moving and not when it's already built up. So, I've been doing it a long time. I know the business pretty well. And I want to build up something, that's good for everybody, where everybody wins. I do trainings too every Monday morning. And I do invite pretty much anybody. I mean, I don't care if you're with me or any other organization. one problem I've seen in this industry, it just seems like there's so many agents that just have not been trained well enough.
Yeah.
They're out there, they get licensed, and they're just out there. Half the time I'll be in a house and I'll be looking at the prospect's current policy, and I'm like, why the heck did that guy even write that? And to me, it's maybe more of a training thing. Maybe they just didn't know any better. So my training, I kind of look at, if I can help more people get better in this business, it's just going to give the image, I guess, of, the insurance industry a better name.
For sure.
So that's kind of how I look at it. And if people want to join me, great. And if not, that's fine too.
I love it. Well, dude, thank you for answering all these questions. Thanks for being on the podcast. And it was cool to hang out with you again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Cody.
You got it, buddy. Thank you, Adam Brsan. Thanks for listening to Power Player Podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode. Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're going to love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there. Welcome back to How to Sell Life Insurance. This is going to be a video, like a recap video, and also some new training that I haven't released before on how to sell more life insurance. I did a video called How to Sell Life Insurance - Amazing. It looks like it was